The Institute of Race Relations says the country is at risk of a repeat of the 2008 xenophobia crisis. But it's also cautioned against crediting the ongoing violence solely to xenophobia, but rather to socio-economic issues brewing in the country. Let's discuss this now. I'm joined by Gabriel Krauser, an analyst from the SA Institute of Race Relations. Gabriel, good evening, and thanks for your time. So, I don't know if we're at risk of a repeat of 2008. For me, it actually seems like it's a little worse this time.
Well, in terms of the loss of a life being this kind of ultimate and infinite thing, even one is one too many for sure. In terms of overall death count, in 2008 the death count was substantially higher than it is now. Our worry is that if this issue is not properly addressed sooner rather than later, immediately in fact, that the death count will continue to ramp up. And we will find ourselves then in the same situation.
I mean, it's already been so intense in just a few days.
Yeah.
I can only imagine if this goes on even just for a couple of more days. And we're seeing, you know, it's just unnecessary violence. We're seeing deaths that don't make sense. If this is xenophobia, and I know that's what you're here to talk about as well, that this is not just xenophobia, why are we seeing South African businesses burned, South African people being killed in this violence? Not that anybody should be killed, you know,
right.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, no, so part of the reason that it's hard to attribute this all to xenophobia is precisely that fact of the number of South African victims that there are. Of course, you might say that when a mob has gone crazy, it's not really good at identifying who's who. But it does also seem like a very important part of what's going on is you see a disruption in the rule of law, a general breakdown in law and order and policing of people's sort of access to violence. And when the door's then been opened to chaos, pirates effectively take advantage of that situation to take indiscriminately, really, from whomever they can in order to feather their own nests.
Well, I suppose, you know, we could always say, yes, it might have started with an incident here or there and anger against a foreign national. But like you say, yes, it seems to have spiraled into we don't know what at the moment. And it all comes down to desperation. Well,
so I think it's important just to put one thing in context. I've tried making a calculation today. Probably through the last 2 years, I've interviewed 60 foreign nationals, African business people in Johannesburg, in and around Johannesburg. And I can't think of one of them who hasn't experienced some form of crime or another in their time in South Africa. Generally, they get hit repeatedly. Especially foreign nationals are known to have to carry cash because it's very difficult for them to open bank accounts, because it's difficult for them to get the paperwork that you need to do that, even if they're here legally. And so they often get hit. And I was remembering a conversation with a representative of the Somali People's Council who said he recorded 100 murders of Somalis 2 years ago, which would put the murder rate of Somalis at sort of 5 times the national South African average. And to find higher, you really have to go to the heart of like battles in World War II. So this is right now, because you've had a few at the same time, it's grab news headlines. But around the country, every week, there's a foreign national being killed, and every day there are dozens, I would reckon, of foreign nationals being hit for violence, robbed. Yeah.
This vulnerability, like you say, is it because circumstances, they can't open up a bank account, they have to carry this cash around? Is there extortion involved? Are we looking at, we've been hearing over the past couple of days, our police can't do anything because often they're the ones who perpetrate the crimes against foreign nationals as well. I don't know how far that goes.
Right, so a common line that I've been told by foreign nationals in Joburg, CBD, Yeovil and Hillbrow is, I asked them, are you worried about being called makwere kwere? It's a rude term, it's a cuss term. And they say, yeah, it's not great for civilians to be thinking of you that way. But what we're really worried about is when police call us ATMs. Machines to go and pull cash out of, because, you know, the police come, they show up and they say, have you got the relevant paperwork? Even if they do, we can make your life difficult, give us a little bit of your cash and the problem will go away. And of course, when they go to Home Affairs, there have been various studies that have found that for foreign nationals to get the proper documentation at Home Affairs, they have to pay bribes there too. So they are sort of walking ATM machines. And I think that generally, because of that identification, as I say, when the real chaos opens up, it's possible not to just steal the money in the pocket, but to steal all the stock off the shelves.
Now, you seem to have your ear on the ground. You seem to be talking to people.
Yeah, I've been there every day.
So what are South African people saying? What are the South Africans in those areas saying? And what they've been telling you, does it go some way to saying, okay, maybe this could be about anger towards foreign nationals.
Yeah, a lot of South Africans have said to me, you know, that this is ghastly and that they feel ashamed as South Africans to be doing it. If you walk up and down Jeppe Street, which is in the CBD of Joburg, where the most trade happens from foreign nationals, you'll see signs that say Pan-Africa Mall, Ubuntu Mall, South Africa Mall being run by foreigners, Bafana Mall. Today, I mean, almost all of the shops were closed, but those few foreigners that I did see out, quite a lot of them were wearing Bafana soccer jerseys, because they were trying to sort of show that, like, we're with you guys, we're not here to oppress. And South Africans were with them, you know, sort of trying to say, we're trying to stand with our guys here because this is my friend, I buy stuff from this person, I trust this person, he buys stuff from me. But I mean, from the South Africans, I got a lot of shame, and I got a lot of, this is not going to go away if we as South Africans don't play our part in holding those accountable who have perpetrated heinous violence.
Find them.
And bring them to justice. And so that really does come down, unfortunately, to the police, who are overburdened and not particularly, they're not winning the war on crime in South Africa, generally speaking. I mean, the other news stories that have been lighting up our stories, lighting up the headlines are highly concerning.
So very quickly, because we were out of time a while ago, but I want to ask you, who needs to do what now?
Right, so I think politicians in opposition and the trade unions who are blaming this all on capitalism itself need to quiet down. We need to think about property rights and human rights very seriously. They require the rule of law, they require police, they require judges, they require bringing people to book who've performed acts of violence, so that next time someone thinks about it, they're going to think again.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Very interesting insight there, especially since you have been talking to those affected themselves on the ground. Thank you very much, Gabriel Krause. He's an analyst from the South African Institute of Race Relations.